New York is by far the most ambitious place on the planet. If you're a lawyer, you come here to be the best lawyer. You're a doctor, you come here to be the best doctor. You're a model, come here to be the best model. For people looking to build in horizontal environments and to have diversity in their lives, New York's the place. You don't need hundreds of folks anymore, right? With these AI native companies. You need maybe dozens to be a truly substantial business, right? You make it in New York, make it anywhere.
Yeah. You've been a part of the New York ecosystem almost 2 decades, started ENIAC almost 16 years ago. First fund was $1.5 million fund. Last fund, 220.
Everything is like democratized. You could meet a founder that's building the next Anthropic or Cursor or Lovable. It's kind of like anybody's game. Karma's real in our industry. And when you help a bunch of folks, it comes back to you 100x. All you got to do is kind of stay in touch, stay top of mind, bounce around to cities, do events, do dinners, and that's how the Rolodex grows.
Nihal, thank you for joining the podcast. We have a special guest, first dog that's been on the pod.
First dog. First dog. You have anything to say about that?
Hopefully not too much to say today.
You've been a real bitch today. And I mean that in the kindest way.
In the kindest way.
Because you're a female dog.
Right. Well, let's kind of jump right in. Like, you've been a part of the New York ecosystem almost 2 decades, started ENIAC almost 16 years ago. First fund was $1.5 million fund. Last fund, 220. What's kind of changed since that first fund to now for you guys internally at ENIAC?
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. I've been thinking about this a lot, especially with AI. Feels like back to first innings, in a lot of ways. Like when we were doing this in 2009, 2010, it was an experiment. We're engineers and we're actually all still running startups. So that first fund you mentioned, 1.5, I think it was 1.6 million. Actually, like we didn't take fees on because what would the fees be? 30 grand a year,
Can't pay anyone off that.
And also we were doing this kind of nights and weekends. I was still running my startup at the time. And so it was very much an experiment. As engineers, we experiment all the time. And that experiment worked out. I mean, we treated it like a real fund, meaning like 32 slugs. Every fund has between 32 and 40, slugs since the beginning of ENIAC over 3 years, half the funds for follow-on. So we treat it like a real thing. And the dream was, like many dreams are, when you make your hobbies your life's work, when you can pay yourself from your hobbies, then you live in the dream, you know? And so the nights and weekends became real. But going back to your question, what is so that's what stayed similar in the sense of that feeling of like that experiment and putting those checks in those founders and running this portfolio construction is like, it feels very like the same energy right now, where like everything is like democratized. Like I feel like, you could meet a founder that's building the next like Anthropic or Cursor or Lovable. And like, by the way, if you look at like the seed investors of all of these AI unicorns and decacorns, there's not actually one consistent seed investor.
Right. They're young, they're older, they're second-time founders.
They're all over the place.
College dropout.
The founders are not consistent, and then the seed investors either are not, right? It gets consolidated downstream, like the A and the B and the C, the folks that have the access and the money, Andreessen and Thrive and Lightspeed and Sequoia and Excel, those are the folks that end up doing. But my point is like, it's kind of like anybody's game. And so I think that's what's very similar. We're also building the firm in a similar way to how we started. We're like very partner-centric, very lean and mean. So, 4 partners, right? Tim, Hadley, Kristen, myself. We have a platform guy who's great, Dorian, who recently joined, CFO who's great, Mike, office and ops, Kat and Dan Donovan. But that's it.
Yeah.
Actually we have a junior investor who started last year, Jain, who's amazing. We're hiring another investor, but that's it. So it's like steady state of 10 people. And then an army of agents, army of AI agents.
I didn't know we were going to talk about this. I want to jump into that real quick.
Yeah.
When you say army of agents, so the three founding partners, if you will, are all engineers.
That's right.
And so you're saying that there's an army of agents. Have you said this before? Have you talked to anybody about this? This is interesting. Actually, I want to know what the agents are doing. This is actually high level that you can share.
Yeah, this is fresh off the ENIAC 7 fundraising deck from like 3 years ago. 3 hours ago.
Oh,
3 hours ago. So this is fresh. I'm testing this material right now.
Let's go.
Hadley's been doing AI way before it was cool. Like he was building his company called Vlingo that sold to Siri. I mean, that was the first real voice assistant. It's a long time ago, right? This is like, pre-ENIAC. And so, for decades, we've been thinking about it. He's been definitely tinkering with it. Kind of NLP, machine learning, help power NLP and help it evolve into kind of generative AI into what we have today. And so he's been leading the charge in terms of everybody working on their own productivity workflows through AI.
And is this like diligencing, deal sourcing, pitch stacks, looking at screening them?
Yeah, so I think everybody's building it for their own use cases. Like for me, we get so many, and you're probably the same way, you get so many inbounds every day that like if you're sleeping on it for like 2 or 3 days, you take a weekend off, yeah, you might miss a hot deal. And also you have like this FOMO, like, oh my God, there's something in here, right? And so for me, I was trying this with OpenClaw. Now I'm just doing it with Claude. All our systems are connected to Claude. So our Affinity is connected, or obviously Gmail, GCal is connected, Airtable, like everything is integrated. And so Claude will find a inbound email, summarize it, send it to Slack, a new deals channel, as soon as it comes in.
And that's the channel you could just look at whenever you need to, and it kind of quantifies or qualifies like if this is a good deal.
Exactly, and it gets smarter with every pass, and it also has all of our memos, right? It has access to Google Drive, so all of our kind of our investment sense, right, is in there. And the best thing is, like, I have no FOMO. Like deal comes in, like it sends it to this Slack channel. It's starting to learn to tag certain partners for certain sectors. So that's pretty cool. And then if a partner jumps on it, like an intro, then I'm working on this next, then it should be able to just connect them, right? Right now it's not reading Slack. It's just posting to Slack, but that's a pretty simple thing to create. So that's kind of one really interesting use case, right? The other one that I just did last week was it had all the data on this deal I'm working on. So I said, go read the Slack channel, right? It read all the notes in Slack channel. Go read my email for all the references, what our co-investors said about it, what founders said about it, right? Memorialize that. Then go listen to all the circle back conversations with all the team members that, by the way, I was not in when Kristen met him, when Tim met him, right?
Oh, right, because you might have had, they have like something that's like granola or whatever that's tracking and transcribing the calls.
Exactly. So our granola that we use granola, but circle back is another agent that just sits there and basically, records the video, records the audio, does the transcript. So I had Claude go through this entire Slack folder, all the emails, all the references, all the audio calls. Also do your own research on the space using the deck, like go ham on it. And I asked this Thursday night before I sent a term sheet, want to sleep on it. Thursday night I said, should we do this deal?
And what do you think their judgment was? Claude's judgment was?
It was interesting because it's also sitting and listening to our IC, right? We have circle back in the IC, and there were all these open questions that were raised at the IC. And so some folks were like, is his tech co-founder legit? Can he build this? Some people were like, oh, like, do CISOs think highly of, he sells into CISO, do CISOs think highly of the founder? Will he be able to sell, right? And so like Claude knew the open questions and then corroborated and answered those open questions by just scanning my inbox or or listening to the circle backs or whatever.
Or even going on the internet and just seeing if there's connections.
And going to the internet, but actually our first party data. So like it had a whole list of questions, like maybe 20 open questions to run down. And then Friday morning, there were green check marks. It's like, okay, you address this, you address this, you address this. By the way, you might want to double click on this, right? And so I thought that was a really interesting use case, and it told me to do the deal. I shared that with the team. I'm like, dude,
you hear what Claude said?
my agent says do the deal. Of course, I think somebody chimed in and said, actually, you don't have all the circle backs in here.
So always happens.
But there are a few other concerns.
So what happened with the deal? Did you guys end up doing?
So I sent the term sheet on Friday. It's usually exploding in 2 or 3 days. So today would have been the deadline. He said he's a few more days. So actually just had a chat with Jain at the office. He's like, dude, like I'm looking at my LinkedIn connections with him, and it like tripled in the last 2 days with other VCs. So I'm like, all right,
these are all the people he's talking to.
He's talking. But guess what? We did probably 10 of those intros. And by the way, we did a few amazing customers. And so I don't think he's going to screw us. I'm not worried about, like, I want to give him the time and space to like make the best decision, right? That's a pro and a con of being like an empathetic investor. It's like, as a founder, like, you want people behind you that are going to trust are going to make the right decision, but like that are just like showing like constant help, right? And so like I intro to Kleiner and Khosla and USV and Excel, and he was blown away.
Yeah.
Right. We intro to Jeffries and JP Morgan, he was blown away. And so like I feel like if he comes back and says, sorry, you're not in, then like it's definitely
not my fit.
Yeah, it's definitely his loss, like because we've showed up in a big way. So anyway, that's the current state of the deal.
Nah.
By the time this podcast comes out, we'll
know what's up.
We'll know if we did it or not, and what it looks like. But yeah, that's those are two kind of interesting use cases for Claude for me. Which is surfacing deals right away to my team, and then helping me with like some objective kind of judgment on evaluating deals in diligence.
I love that. I actually want to transition because this helps me think about the New York tech scene. You've seen it for a while, mobile and software. Now it's in the AI space. I'm curious, what do you think that New York has that San Francisco doesn't? And then what does New York potentially need to do? And it sounds like Claude-like companies.
Yeah.
What does New York need to do to be a generational tech hub?
Yeah. So New York is by far the most ambitious place on the planet. You have
I love that.
A density of ambition here that's unlike any other place in the world. And what I mean by saying that is that people come to New York not to chill, you know what I mean? To level up.
To hustle.
And
to get after it.
Every industry as well. If you're a lawyer, you come here to be the best lawyer. You're a doctor, you come here to be the best doctor. You're a model, come here to be the best model. You're a real estate broker, you come here to be the best real estate broker. And by the way, you're a politician, you're an activist, you're an entrepreneur, you're a VC. By the way, every day you can probably fill your calendar with 12 meetings of people better than you to help you level up, right? And so the ability to, if you're an ambitious young person, old person, any person, if you're ambitious, there's no better place that can receive and quench your ambition, than New York City, right? And so it is the place to level up. The flip side of that is it's exhausting because if you're like me or you, we're out every night, right?
Right. In the streets.
Because that's where the action is, and every night there's like 20 things that you can go to.
Agency is rewarded in New York. Like your agency, your hustle, the way that you tackle things, people respect that.
That's right. And you and I are similar in that regard. And so we thrive in these environments, So New York has got nobody's got anything on New York for ambition and for density and for actually diversity of ambition as well in folks' careers. Now, San Francisco is one very concentrated industry, and so that has its own significant advantages. Because if you're building an AI today anywhere in the world, you want to be in San Francisco.
Yeah.
And by the way, in San Francisco as well, after you are Anthropic all day, you go to a dinner, and sit next to the other model providers, and you're comparing notes. And by the way, you're probably dating or like married to somebody in the industry as well.
Yeah.
So like at night, you're also like whispering sweet nothings
fully
about
locked in, not even trying
the new Opus model, and so like, yeah, you're fully locked in. And so I think the pace of acceleration within that one industry, is also second to none. So I think those are the pros of both those environments. I think for people looking to build in horizontal environments and to have diversity in their lives, so your friend group can all be full of ambitious people, but they're all in different industries. And it's like constant learning and like, meeting super interesting people that are like way out of your networks and constantly building networks that are like way out of your purview, then New York's the place, if you're looking to make that, create the next Anthropic, then yeah, you got to be in San Francisco.
Yeah. And this podcast is brought to you by Gunderson Detmer. For over 30 years, Gunderson Detmer has represented what's next. Built exclusively for the innovation economy, the firm is the #1 law firm in venture capital globally, partnering with leading investors and groundbreaking companies from start to scale. Learn more at gunder.com. Foundation Model Labs, research, etc., San Francisco. Honestly, anything else, especially applications.
Yeah.
You could do New York. Yeah. Potentially you can do others, but I'm pumped and I'm excited about New York getting some of his first big wins. Speaking about New York being like a generational hub,
yeah,
you would assume we have to have some big AI company. It doesn't have to be a Foundation Model Lab. I'm curious, how do you decide on what is going to actually be serious? Like what is signal versus the noise when you're thinking about AI companies? And maybe if you want to talk about some of the latest investments you made in the AI space.
Yeah. So actually, I did a pod with Anish Agarwal, the founder of this company called Traversal.
Yes, I texted you about that. I was like, yo, these guys are the future of New York.
I mean, this guy's he was a professor at Columbia. He did a ton of work in machine learning, specifically around, SRE. So basically, how to manage the uptime of systems, leveraging AI, right, to go through like millions of log files that would take engineers hours to do, to figure out where that needle in the haystack is, where that single point of failure was, and then fix it, right? And so that's what his research has transformed into. But he always says that New York is the best place to recruit, because there's not a lot of competition, and every young engineer, actually every young person, I'd say every person,
way better lifestyle.
You want to live in New York City, you want to live in New York. And so he's like, actually, we love building the company here. And I think that's part of, New York's charm and gravity, for companies like this. And, this is just one example. This is backed by, Sequoia and Kleiner, but there are so many of these that are popping up in New York. There's a deal we did last summer. He's building basically the AI model for creativity. Very much also a research project, and he could live anywhere in the world. He actually was based in Milan. His initial research was in Milan, and he decided New York City. And he's doing the same thing. He's kind of recruiting. That's again research oriented, and he's recruiting the best young people to help build it with him. The reality is you don't need hundreds of folks anymore, right? With these AI native companies, you need maybe dozens to be a truly like real and substantial business, right? And so you could do that very easily in New York. I think we're at a cusp of this next generation that's at the research level. I think the application layer is also prime time for New York City because this is where the density of all the consumers are, right? We got like 9 million people, right? In this area, in the tri-state area that can all be customers of the next consumer AI app. I remember when Uber was launching, SF was fine. It was kind of a test case, but the big deal was, could we break New York or not?
Yeah.
Right? Because like you make it in New York, you make it anywhere.
Yeah.
And so I think that's very much the case for like consumer AI. And so we have a company called Oboe, OBOE.com. That's a personalized learning application using AI to power ontology to help you kind of go down these rabbit holes and learn about very specific topics. That was founded by Nir and Mike, who co-founded Anchor. We backed them in their last company that was acquired by Spotify.
Podcasting.
They put
early.
They made podcasts kind of accessible.
That's
right?
why we're here.
Everybody. That's why we're here. shout out to Anchor. But Oboe's in New York. We think again that consumer AI audience is New York, just like Uber's audience, biggest market is New York. And then one other thing I'll say on the application layer, which is on the B2B side, New York still got the highest concentration of Fortune 500 companies, headquarters, right? And so like the company, the term sheet that was out last week, they're selling into regulated industries, starting with the financial industry. Okay. New York City's a layup for that.
Yeah.
All the headquarters of all the banks are New York.
10 block radius.
And when you're early, really at any stage, but especially when you're early, it's a lot of just face-to-face customer discovery, right? To get to product market fit. And it's just rolling into the offices and just sitting down in meetings. And that's New York City, where you can do, again, 12 of those a day and everyone can level you up.
San Francisco, really hard to do back-to-back meetings.
It's hard to do. And then you also don't have Jamie Dimon, you don't have these heads of industries that are coming to work every single day, that are in office, that are taking meetings. And so, anyway, the AI application, both B2C and B2B, I think the environment to create those is New York City. The foundational layers and the infrastructure, I think the Bay Area, is more prime for that.
That makes sense. And then I wanted to talk about your self-proclaimed human Rolodex.
Yeah.
I also maybe want to talk about pitch and run at the same time. Like, I agree, you are the human Rolodex. Like, the amount of people that you know or can bring up or can do introduction on the text with, insane, especially on the deals we've been on. And then I even remember with pitch and run, which you can talk a little bit more about pitch and run, but I pitched Harlem Capital to you.
Yeah.
I think back then it was a little bit earlier than 9 a.m. I looked recently, I was like, 9 a.m. But I'm like, I'm pretty sure we went earlier. But tell us about being a human Rolodex. How does that help you as an investor? And then maybe even talk about pitch run, how big that's gotten.
Yeah. Well, prior to ENIAC, I was an entrepreneur at certified startups, and my primary role as a CEO, co-founder of those startups was sales. I was the go-to-market guy, right? And so, especially in the early 2000s, a lot of those relationships that I created, one of my startups was in San Francisco for 5 years after that crash from 01 to 06. And pretty much everybody that I met at that time is like a big shot now. It's very interesting, right? Like 2 decades later.
Wow.
Right?
It's like business school. You technically went to business school in San Francisco.
Yeah, I'd say that was the business school. That was the MBA I got on the street, at a fraction of the price. And, but all those people, I've interacted with, I earned their respect in some way, shape, or form. I was actually at the Upfront LA conference a couple weeks ago. And this woman, April Underwood, was there, who I met when she was early at Twitter, when Jack was running it. And then she was the chief product officer of Slack. And now she's got her own fund. She's an amazing human, amazing investor. And she came up to me and she's like, I'll never forget like your crazy hustle
Mm-hmm.
In a way that like was like also very endearing. It wasn't cringe, because like you have founders that are like just chasing you. And she actually told me a story where like the first revenue officer of Twitter, this guy, Adam Bain.
I know. He's a Cleveland guy.
Yeah, he's a Cleveland guy. Bain's great. There was a couple instances, this is totally not planned, believe it or not, where he would be landing off a red eye. And I'd happen to be like in the same gate terminal of the airport, while I was trying to do a deal with him. And
wow, I love it.
And I was like mailing checks to Twitter before they had a business model, because like the startup that I had was using Twitter data. And so like I thought they deserve 50% of the rev share. And so I was just mailing checks to Bain, and he'd like mail them back. But she said, listen, you had that hustle and it wasn't cringe. And so I think through all of these types of interactions, you end up kind of earning people's respect. And then you stay in touch, right? You stay in touch. Obviously, social is a great way to do that. When you're posting and you're connected to folks on LinkedIn and X and Facebook and IG, of course, and TikTok. But beyond that, and I know, again, you're cut out the same way, doing these events to bring people together.
Yeah.
And these people always live in a list. Like I actually still have an old school Google sheet that's always open on every machine. And I've been doing this for 20 years now.
Wow.
And there are tabs on the Google sheet of lists of people. And so I'll have LA list, SF list, and the people at the top of the list are people that I need to catch up with. And so when I'm in that city, I'll just like
hit them up,
bomb that list. I have my buddy Vijay calls this Jain CRM, which so I'm Jain, which is a religion similar to Hinduism and Buddhism, but we believe in the number one kind of tenet is called ahimsa, which means nonviolence to all living things. Essentially treating everybody with compassion and respect, and trying to basically help everybody that you meet without asking for anything in return. And I think when you do that, and again, there's no ulterior motive, like karma is real in our industry, right? And when you help a bunch of folks, it comes back to you 100x. And all you got to do is kind of stay in touch, stay top of mind, bounce around to cities, do events, do dinners, keep the lists, and that's how the Rolodex grows.
Wow.
And that's how the Rolodex grows. And now, like when we do diligence on the deal, and I was talking about these customers that we introduced, like those were earned, right? Those were not cold outbounds. Those are like years, decades of constant building of relationship and constant giving, to folks where, then they will respond to your email within minutes, because you've earned that kind of respect and demeanor with so many people. So yeah, I think it's hard to do well, but I think you have to do it like authentically, and truly like give without asking for anything in return.
Yeah. Maybe you give us an example. Maybe we can end on these last two ones, pitch and run and the human unicorn series.
Yeah.
Pitch and run is straightforward. You pitch and you run.
Yeah.
I'm also curious about human unicorns, like how you came up with that. You now have a podcast with human unicorns.
Yeah.
How are you leveraging those two using some of the principles you have for the human Rolodex?
Yeah, it's interesting. So pitch and run, running for me has always been an exhaust valve as a founder. Actually, even in high school when I started running, it was just a de-stress valve. And then after college, when I was building startups, it was very much so, an exhaust valve. And
you ran last year in a marathon, right? New York Marathon?
So I've run 5 New York marathons, maybe number 6 this year. Let's see. Trying to sign up for Chicago. So I want to try to do all the 6, the 6
big ones.
Yeah, the 6 big ones, get that fancy medal at some point in my life. But so, and then I was running with some other founders and VCs. This was like 7 years ago down the West Side Highway.
Literally, I was part of one of them.
near my crib, and realized that like, this is actually a great environment to kind of bring other founders together. More to create like a peer group amongst founders, because there's not enough of those.
Yeah.
Founders go through so much every day. It's a roller coaster every hour, right? We know it, we've experienced it. And they just don't have somebody to high five their accomplishments, and a shoulder to cry on, And so 3 co-founders, Kevin Weatherman, Oleg, myself, started this thing in 2019. Kevin and I have been very active since. And we've grown this thing now to 18 cities around the world. We have a run in New York every single day. So actually, Steve came with me on the run this morning.
Wow.
And every one of the runs on Monday is the same. You circle up, you introduce yourself, how many pitch runs it's been. And on Monday, you want to put something in the universe that you want to manifest.
For the week.
Sick. And so you have these founders coming together, right? And there's some deep stuff. One guy's like, listen, like, I hope, like, my mom's sick. I hope she's okay, right? Somebody else is like, listen, I had got this big customer in the pipeline. I need to close it. I need to hire this one engineer I've been trying to recruit for the last 3 weeks. And when people like throw that out there in the circle before the run, then what happens on the run is that people kind of naturally find each other based on the things they've put out.
Makes sense.
And all of a sudden, an hour later, like, there's all of this new type of connection being built between founders, but also a lot of folks that maybe are struggling with something or wanted to talk about something have now done that, right? So it's like very therapeutic. So anyway, that's Pitch and Run. That's why it's actually been growing kind of organically by itself, like almost exponentially over the past 5 years. And that's a catch-all. Anybody can come. We don't run very fast. We run like this morning. I ran like a 10:30 with Steve the dog, pace. You feel great. And you end up, with so many new relationships, so many new connections, so many new cheerleaders, is really the thing. Like, building a startup is very lonely. Like, when you're a CEO, like, your partner doesn't know, your spouse doesn't know, your kids don't know, your employees don't know, other founders know.
Super lonely.
Other founders know. And so oftentimes you just need people to cheer for you and to give you a hug, and that's kind of the community that we're very proud to have built. That's Pitch and Run. And then on the other side of the Human Unicorn podcast and the Human Unicorn sector that I say I spend a lot of my time on, is basically like, now kind of been doing this for 20 years, right? Having like basically amassed relationships, been lucky to be on rides of founders that have built billion-dollar businesses, success or failure, and if I haven't invested in them before, at least gotten to know them. I say, like, jokingly, it's not false at all, like stalking these founders, right? And
same. I learned it from you.
And not in a cringe way, right?
Never.
But in a hustle way, authentic. And over time, you end up befriending a lot of these folks, right? And so, like, actually now, I would say, like, many of my good friends, have built like multi-billion-dollar companies. One of my
What
best.
does that say about you?
Yeah, well, I mean, that
says some good things. I guess.
Thanks for you. I mean, your friend's a reflection of you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people that you keep, right, and the rooms that you create, is a reflection of you. And so, yeah, I'll take some credit, but I think I've just been very lucky. And again, I think it's just all about giving so much to the extent without asking for anything in return, where the universe, rewards you with these relationships and this kind of energy. One of my favorite stories recently, one of my best friends, this guy, Sunny Madra.
Mm. Oh, right. This is the recent acquisition.
Who actually I met, building a startup in New York, 2008, a company called Buzzed. We hired his startup. He just started this, mobile development shop called Extreme Labs. Sunny Madra and Amar Varma. And now they've become 2 of my best friends. And we met just because Buzz hired them to build their iPhone and Android apps, right? After that, they invested in the pivot from Buzz to local response. I invested in their next startup, Autonomic. Then Autonomic sold to Ford. Then Amar created Mantle, which we led the seed in. Sunny created Definitive, that we also seeded. Definitive was acquired by Grok when Grok was $1 billion. And so Definitive got a big chunk of Grok at that time. And then the big exit was in December. On Christmas Eve, it was announced.
20x.
NVIDIA acquired Grok for $20 billion. And my boy Sonny was president of Grok. Like,
I didn't know he was president.
He came in through the acquisition, became president. His co-founder Gavin was VP of engineering. The very senior roles alongside the CEO Jonathan. And so, anyway, I'm just so proud, right? And I think this is what really also drives me, just being a part of your friend's success. Is like the best feeling in the world.
Wow.
And he would have been successful for sure. Without me,
Yeah.
But to be on the ride and to be a small part of it is like something extraordinarily rewarding, and motivating. And I think the only reason that, I ended up in their circles was because, again, of giving. And, obviously, we worked together. But we used to do this big dinner in Barcelona at the Mobile World Congress, and we would just bring all these people together and not charge any money, and people still remember those dinners, just like, you're going to South by, right?
Yeah.
So kind of showing up in those rooms, organizing the events, earning people's respect, and doing it in a non-cringe way.
That's success.
All those things, and doing it for a long time.
Consistency,
and doing it for a long time, because reputation it compounds over
time,
so many years. And by the way, it can be broken in a second.
That's a Warren Buffett quote. I know that.
Fortunately, we're not in the Epstein files, but like reputation can be broken, and so it takes so much time to build that, and you just got to keep on doing good work.
I love that. That is probably the perfect place to stop. Is like focusing.
Stop at the Epstein files.
Yeah. Stop there, but focus on giving.
Yeah.
Giving without expecting anything in return. Nihal, I appreciate you for jumping on.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Brandon. Real pleasure. And it's amazing watching you guys build, and really appreciate our partnership.
Me too.